Hey, everybody. I'm here today talking to Matias Page, a man I really admire. And I wanted to get some of his story. Matias and I have actually, we've gone back and forth quite a bit on Twitter before, but we've never spoken face to face like this. So I'm really glad to have Matias on. Welcome, Matias.
Hey, Dennis. It's an honor to have to be here, and yeah, let's go. Yeah, we never talked before, so this is gonna be like a fresh start.
Awesome. So Matias is he's made his living doing a number of things. He's done graphic design, and he currently makes his living in fitness coaching. He does one-on-one coaching. He's obviously, as you can see, very qualified to do that. And so that's what he's doing now. But Matias has got a really interesting backstory behind him, and that's mainly what I wanted to talk about today. Matias has got the most impressive before and after photos, I think, of almost anyone I've ever seen. On his Twitter page, he bills himself as formerly depressed, fat, and weak. And now I help men get lean and strong with zero BS advice. I think, man, that is straight and to the point. Myself, I've had this long interest since my graduate school days in mental health, in what is going on in mental health, and that's one reason I have this very specific interest in what Matias has to say. So, Matias, I'm doing all the talking here so far. Let's get you to talk. So you say formerly depressed, fat, and weak. And so when did that start? What was that like?
Yeah, it started around when I finished high school, and I was going to be a filmmaker. I knew this from since I was a kid. I wanted to be a filmmaker. But then I started going to film school here in Argentina. I'm from Argentina, and I took a year off from after high school, like doing nothing. And I think it all started there. Doing nothing wasn't good for me, I think. And then I started film school next year, 1997. This is, and I started having, feeling blue all the time, all of a sudden, and having weird ideas. And all my family noticed, but it wasn't that big until I was into my third year in university film school. And when I just became very, very isolated. I didn't talk to anyone. I had I had not only depression, but I had later on, a doctor treated me, and he said, you have a schizophrenia, basically, and clinical depression. And I had been so for 3 years, so I started treatment. He was a good friend from my father, and one of the most expensive doctors in Argentina. He studied in Cleveland, in the U.S., and also taught there, get classes. And well, as soon as I started, like 1 month later, he started giving me antidepressants and antipsychotics. And it was a whole team of people. He had a whole team that treated you, like clinical stuff, psychological, everything. And he was a psychoneurobiologist. That was his specialty. And well, yeah, I had, I was depressed, sad all the time, had no motivation, no nothing. Until then, I was, a thin person, always not athletic, but I did martial arts, stuff like that. I didn't look, lean, but I was never fat. And only a year after, when I started treatment, I got fat, and I felt even worse. And I did that for 8 years, basically. And I was fatter and fatter, and had more allergies. I was always allergic and asthmatic. Had so many problems when growing up, like health problems. Always in bed, classic sick kid when I was young. But well, this was what I call now the hell. You know, it was a mental hell. It was impossible for me to think right or analyze what I was doing. It was, looking back, it feels so weird to talk about that person. Like, I don't feel like that anymore. It's like I'm a different person. I remember it, but I can't relate anymore to that.
Yeah, wow. So so you say you gained weight afterwards, after you got on these medications. I know that for some antipsychotic drugs, weight gain is a big issue. Do you, well, I got a couple of questions here. One is, before you started feeling this way, you described like around age 19 or so, do you feel, can you look back on that and think, oh, this is what I was doing, or this is the way I was that led to the way you were?
Yeah. I was always, kind of loner, but I was social at the same time. I didn't have problems always had friends, but I started feeling like being alone more and more and more. And I always read a lot. I hated school, but I loved studying on my own. So I just locked myself in a room and started, the internet was beginning, and I started downloading everything like piracy. I couldn't buy anything. I was kidding, and I downloaded hundreds of books and started reading. And I also, I draw pictures. I'm an artist. So I isolated myself and I started drawing nonstop like a maniac, and many, with everything that came to my mind. And so the isolation, I stopped doing any kind of physical activity whatsoever. And I avoided the sun, which I now love. Like, it was like, I hated the sun because I always had, I think because of the pills they were giving me, I had rashes. If I was like this right now, I would turn red and everything would itch. Like, I would have to go jump into a cold shower and to make it go away. And so I started avoiding the sun, avoiding everything. And I ate, I drank 2 liters of Coke per day, at least, ate Cheetos, everything was bad. And, coupled with the isolation and everything makes the problem even worse. So I think now that if I were to find, for example, you or someone like me, now back then, I wouldn't have had to go through all that, because I think it could have been avoided altogether. All those 8 years that I disappeared from my life, I did nothing.
Yeah, wow. I know that I've seen severely mentally ill people, and it's just such a tragedy, because I am of the opinion that, like you, that much of that could be avoided. Unfortunately, then once they get into the grasp of the mental health system, I think in many cases it makes it worse. When you started taking the drugs that were prescribed to you, did it help? Did it make it worse? What was going on then?
Yeah, I was in such a bad situation that because I started slowly developing suicidal ideas, and I couldn't stop thinking about killing myself. That was the tipping point where my father, and I had a revolver in my room. So my father took it from me, and he said, "Okay, I'm gonna present you a friend of mine who was around his age. He's a doctor, blah blah blah. He's a good guy. He's one of the best. And would you be willing to start treatment?" Okay, I said, yeah, whatever. And at the same time, I'm live in La Plata, which is 1 hour by car from Buenos Aires, the main city in Argentina. And I was doing nothing by that time. So my father was very powerful within the Argentinian Navy. So he said, "I'm gonna get you a job in there, and you're gonna start treatment at the same time. Are you willing? Yes. Okay. So I started working there. I basically had to do nothing because I was the son of, the guy, the big guy. But it was for me to make, he did his best. So I could move to another city, back and forth, and start treatment. And yeah, the pills stopped my suicidal ideation to a certain degree. It was like everything is flatter. Everything you feel is flat. You don't feel, so you don't feel joy either. You lose that. That's what happened to me, which was, for me, it was the worst, because I developed what he described as extreme anhedonia. I don't know how you pronounce it, which nothing makes you happy at all, nothing in this world. So that was worse. I said, okay, I'd rather feel depressed. Feeling nothing is much worse than being depressed, in my experience. But yeah, maybe he saved me from suicide. Yeah, maybe. That's the only benefit I see, because I felt very bad all the time, just like before, but feeling less and less. And I felt like a ghost at some point. Like, my schizophrenia got worse. He was trying every new drug, Zyprexa, everything, one after the other, always coupled with an antipsychotic. So when I developed that anhedonia, I felt like nothing was real anymore. I actually touched walls when I was walking in Buenos Aires to see, the people around were like nothing, like floating. It's weird. Now I say it and it sounds crazy, but that's how I felt. Yeah.
Wow, this is an amazing story. And then so then when you started taking the medications, then you gained weight. You got fat, in your words, and so I suppose that made you feel even worse, or what?
Yeah.
What was did that go through your mind at the time? Like, oh, I'm getting fat, or did you feel like, well, I got bigger problems than that?
Yeah. The thing with schizophrenia, I never had the positive symptoms, which is active hallucinations or voices, but I did have all the negative ones, and I didn't know what was real. I doubted everything, but and I had ideas, weird visions, but I knew they were not real. That's the difference. Like I had, but the thing with people with schizophrenia, they start dressing weird, like crazy people. And that happened to me. I didn't notice it, of course, but my family were telling me, I remember now, and they tell me now, you're dressing weird, like a shirt, like it's kind of buttoned wrong, the pants, weird shoes, stuff like that. I look like a crazy guy, basically, completely out of shape, and my hair was, not taken care of, and I didn't realize it until 4 or 5 years later when I was fat, and everyone was telling me, hey, you're fat, because in Argentina this happens. People tell you, hey, you're fat, and your mom, everyone, your neighbors. So yeah, it was a problem. It was everything is worse, because every part of your daily life gets worse when you're fat. I know that for a fact. I feel 1,000% better today. Everything, from your breathing, from everything. Yeah.
So you said once on Twitter that your doctor told you that you were just going to get worse, and
Yeah.
I think maybe you said that it would lead to being institutionalized at some point. What could you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah. He avoided giving me a label for it for many months, until I said, okay, stop. I want to know the diagnosis. What's going on? He said, okay, this, and that, because, the neurons and this and that. He tried to explain to me. He knew all the mechanisms. And okay, I had a name. I wanted a label. I was kind of looking for it, which was the worst decision of my life to accept it at that point. And he said it, and he said, "This is a I don't know how degenerative disease. You know, it's gonna get worse. It doesn't get better. The best we can hope for," he said, is for new treatments to make it, you know, slowly less worse over time. And if you can keep a job and maybe have a girlfriend, uh, not even get married, uh, that's a good future for you.
That's the best you could hope for.
Yeah. So for at least 4 more years after that, because it was a total of around 8 years, that then it came the worst, you know, for me, because I said, okay, I was always thinking, okay, I'm a schizophrenic, I'm done. And a few of, by the way, a few of the drugs that they were giving me trying required me to sign, you know, papers that I don't remember that one, but they had to test me weekly for my white blood cells, and I went to a place weekly. They take care of all of that, and they take blood from your fingers, and the people I saw around, I said, oh, fuck, people like me, you know, I was drew, had me like that, and yeah, that was basically that's, that's the situation that I was in. And it wasn't until this do something else.
Okay, there we had a little glitch there, but okay.
Yeah.
So then you're going into the second half of this, like the second 4 years of this, and things are getting worse. Seemingly, you feel worse. I know that I know I asked you this before on Twitter. Because you've posted these before and after photos of yourself. So at some point you took those photos. And in other words, and this is what I was asking you before on Twitter, is like, why did you decide to take those photos? I guess maybe a more general question is, what made you decide to change, or what made you think that you could change?
Are you okay? I thought the connection was lost. And well, as soon as my father died, the doctor started avoiding me. That was then I saw, and he was totally unprofessional about it. I could have done something legally because he completely abandoned me. That was the, you know, that was yeah. And I was stuck in that job that my father gave me, which I hated every second of it. That's another story, which I think made me even worse because I hated every second. I spent most of my time in the bathroom smoking because I was a smoker. I smoked 40 cigarettes per day, all throughout that era. And all of a sudden, I said, okay, this is the worst. Everything was worse. And I said, okay, I had savings. So I said, I'm gonna pursue, you know, all of a sudden, pursue my filmmaking ideas. So I applied to a US college. I got into one in California. And I said, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna go. And my doctor, who was sometimes accepting me, you know, and treating me still, said, advised me against it completely. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go anyway. So I never saw him again, literally, just like that. And I applied for the visa, the student visa. I went to the US, and when I went there, I stopped all the treatments, like everything. and I went into college and started. I loved it. I had a few relatives nearby, but I was alone. First time in my life, no one around. Like I was in Costa Mesa and they were in Rancho Santa Margarita, so it's like a long distance, and I felt more alone than ever. I missed my family, but and then I ran out of money because it's very expensive for international students. So I hit rock bottom again, and I had to come back. I gave up all of that. When I came here, it was like the lowest point ever. Fatter than ever, everything. I had no money, no job, because I quit the other job, which I would have had until the day I died, because that's how it works in Argentina. And one day I said, okay, I got to do something. And I started. I said, okay, I'm gonna change. And the first thing I did was I'm gonna quit smoking. Everyone told me you're gonna get fatter, even fatter. So I said, not only I'm gonna quit smoking all of a sudden after 12 years, but I'm gonna lose weight. I don't know. I found something in me. I said, oh no, I hate it when people tell me you can't do this or that. That's a huge motivation for me. And I quit, and I took a picture. That's that was what led me to that point. I hated the way I looked. It was fucking, like horrible. I felt embarrassed, and I did push-ups. I said, okay, I didn't know how to train. I dropped on the floor, did one push-up I could do, and I ran out of air. But I said, okay, one push-up. I did one other push-up later, and that's how it all began, basically, with that photo and that push-up the day I quit cigarettes.
Got another little interruption here. Okay, hey, you there, Matias?
Yeah, sorry for that.
Sure. So let's see. So what you quit smoking, you took that photograph, you did a push-up or two. I just wanted to say, when somebody tells me I can't do something, that's like totally a motivation for me too.
Yeah.
That's a big motivation. Oh yeah, really? I can't? Okay, well, watch. So did you have any idea in your mind that physical fitness was the way out of your mental health problems? And of course, we all know that physical fitness affects your physical health, but did you think along those lines? Did you think, well, if I'm ever going to solve these problems, I just have to do it myself, something like that?
Well, in this process, I've always been like this. I look for, always researched on my own. Like since I was a kid, I asked for books from outside, when the physical books. So the internet, I was good at finding information on the internet. So I shifted my focus from schizophrenics and stuff like that to what can I do? Something that I can do on my own, like you said. And I started finding people like, blogs like, at the time it was Bold and Determined, from a guy called Victor Pride. He called himself like that. And Mike Cernovich, Danger and Play. And Getting Stronger is another blog which I liked. That's where I took the name Hormetic from. And I found out the hormesis, process and whatever it's called. And I read that in many clinics in the, I don't know if it's Norway or whatever, instead of giving people antidepressants, they expose them to cold. They had them doing, intermittent fasting and physical training outdoors. So I said, okay, I'm going to try that. I was fat, but my two younger brothers were lifesavers at this point when I came back because they were fit, they were training outside. And I said, they told me, okay, come train with us. So I started going with them, feeling like horrible, because I was bloated and hated everything, hated the sun, stuff like that. So I started exposing myself to that stress, the sun included. Um, I think cold showers, people minimize them, but they helped me tremendously in the mental aspect and the skin aspect because all my allergies, skin allergies, went away with it. When I did them religiously, I started. And one thing to note is that I hated training, like for 1 or 2 years, I hated it. But I said, okay, I'm gonna do it because sometimes during the training, I noticed this. By the end of the day, I said, okay, that was the best part of my day. I felt better than ever. So I started looking for that, like a drug addict, but in a good drug, quote unquote. And when you keep doing it, you start. It's like a whole thing that starts moving, and you start thinking better ideas. And I kept reading better ideas too in those blogs and stuff like that. And I tried everything, like anything you can think of. I tried on, the apple cider vinegar, which I think is great. Many things that are considered like by doctors like useless were changing my life. So I said, okay, yeah, I was right. He was wrong. I would. Everyone was telling me, you don't look like yourself anymore, like that depressed, And they saw I was energized, happy. Everything was better. So yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And so then, you started reading these. You were reading these websites, and I've read those too, Bold and Determined. I remember that, way back when, and Cernovich and so on, and also Getting Stronger, the website about hormesis, and then intermittent fasting seems to be a pretty big part of what you do. And how did you get involved in that?
I thought it was BS because my brother started doing it before me. But the guy that convinced me was Martin Berkham from Lean. Can you hear me? From leangains.com. I saw he was a great dude. He was big. He was and
Yeah.
he didn't look like a hippie to me, who was coming up with stuff like that. So, yeah, he convinced me. So I started doing that. And I felt classic hungry at first and stuff like that. But I noticed that it's, you're used to feeling hungry all the time, but it goes away really fast. And I noticed that I started having more and more energy. Not less. So you start discovering things that you hear that you're told by mainstream media, what we always say, that are not necessarily correct. Many of them are completely wrong, at least for many people. And
Definitely.
yeah, that was it. Yeah, leangains.com. That's the guy who convinced me to try fasting. Because he had many clients who got huge doing fasting. So I always heard that fasting, you lose muscle mass. Yeah, well, this guy is for real, He was like, he's legit,
Yeah, Martin Burkhand has got a very impressive physique, and and he's advocating intermittent fasting for sure. Absolutely, agree 100%. And then, so you were doing body weight training. I suppose all along here, you're still doing body weight training. And what did you do? You got progressively more into it? You got better? What was happening? You were losing weight? Your mental health was getting better, presumably?
I lost you a bit there.
There you are.
I didn't. Yeah. I yeah, I never liked gyms too much. Um, so uh, among the many things that I started reading, it was I'm always looking for weird stuff. So yeah, maybe many people get lost in there, like trying to learn like weird stuff. But I was obsessed with Russians, how they train, how they avoid injuries, and how tough they are. And I said, okay, because I always liked martial arts, and okay, I started training bodyweight training, because of that. And and well, one day I was already practicing, but I found the book Convict Conditioning, which is excellent. And I found a way to train at home or outdoors, which adapted really well to my goals, which is to be agile, be able to punch, stuff like that. I, for me, gyms make you lose that movement. So I never liked deadlifts and stuff like that, which are great, but they don't work for me. I don't feel great. Um, and so I started training bodyweight training like that because of that, because I found basically that book. That's a major one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have not I have not personally read that book, but I certainly know of it, and it's interesting. Coming, here I am in the U.S. and you're there in Argentina, and you came across some of these same sources of information. That's great. And then most of your body weight training has been done outside. Is that right?
Yeah, I think had I trained indoors, I wouldn't have had that mental improvement, because that forced me to be outside with my brothers, and there was people around, so I lost that, shyness or whatever. It wasn't shyness really. I wanted to be alone, and we started interacting with people and my brothers, and bodyweight training. The way we do it is not like stationary, like all. I found that training movement itself, it's like it reconnects your whole brain. It's not the same as something like just building muscle. I felt like a happiness, in movement, like felt that enthusiasm that you feel when you're a kid, which I had completely lost. So I started doing some soft parkour, which is another thing that motivated me a lot. I saw guys in their 50s doing it, so I said, okay, I don't know, 35 at the time. I don't remember the exact date, but that motivated me a lot. And so I was there suddenly, and kids and younger people were starting to ask me, "Hey, what do you do? Where did you learn that?" And then it began how people come and ask you for advice and stuff like that, because they see you. They saw me doing that. They could see I was older. So yeah, this is what I do today in Twitter, maybe.
Right. So you, Matias, you're 42 now. Is that right?
43.
43. And so this time that you're talking about just now, this was maybe 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
And then at what point would you say that you were basically all better and like you are now? How long did that take?
It's very hard, because one can pick moments that you suddenly I suddenly had a realization moment when I said, okay, oh yeah, it was back in 2015. I was at the beach in Argentina. I like to take long walks, like 3-hour walks in the dunes. There's nobody. I was with my two brothers, who are 10 and 15 years younger than me, and I was running by them, beside each other. I mean, in the sun. I said I had no allergies. I'm running like I'm not out of breath. I have nothing. Like I feel amazing. And I saw the sun and I said, okay, this is it. It was like it came to me, and I was very, very grateful for that moment. I still use it you can use that whenever you don't feel like training or you feel a little blue. You say, okay, but you have that, and you start creating those things for yourself, for your future self, and you can always carry them with you. Like they're very powerful stuff. And yeah, it was around 2015. I didn't look that good, like I didn't have muscle and stuff like that, but I didn't care about that at the time. But then you can always focus. Okay, I'm gonna build more muscle here, stuff like that, But that was the moment.
Wow, awesome! It's like the clouds parting, and that sort of moment. That's incredible. Did you change your diet at all as part of what you did?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I'm always open about this because I tweet about it and everything. I'm not a monk at all. When it comes to this, I'm always testing the limits. Maybe a bit too far, but it works for me. But I still eat junk food, drink, party. But you can create a super solid foundation no matter your age. And at that time I went full on like clean food, fasted. But then I broke the fast with a huge steak, bone broth, bone marrow. I knew by then that I had to get nutrients and rebuild everything, not just the muscles, it's the brain, and your hormones, because my hormones were destroyed, were wrecked after all the treatment. That's something they mention, but it should be a major point they tell you when they give you antidepressants and antipsychotics. I was wrecked hormonally, and you can't have a good mental state if your hormones are wrecked. My testosterone was around 300. Had everything was bad. So yeah, I changed everything, because when they ask me, oh, what did you do? It's like I changed everything. It's so many things. You can. It's not just eating a steak here and there. It's like all your approach must change to recover from something like that. It's not. I knew it, and because I tested it, I always wanted to do the minimal dose, effective dose, but I recognized that I had to change everything. That's why it took me so long.
Right. I know. Just to say something about myself, I've talked about this before. Is that I was ill myself, not in the same way that you were, of course, but I had this moment where I realized that if I were going to ever get better again and feel well, that I had to do it myself. That I couldn't depend on doctors or anything like that, that I had to figure it out. Otherwise, it was just going to be status quo forever and ever, and I did not want that. So yeah, I changed a lot of things myself. That's another story, though.
I know your story, but I mean, what you shared is amazing.
Yeah, right. So if you were talking to your younger self at the time, that when you were going through these problems, I mean, what would you have said to your younger self about how to deal with this?
One of the main ones, the mindset one, the mental ones, is never accept labels that anyone wants to give you. Could be a death sentence. That's what it was for me until I rejected it, because it was that label that made it last so long and made it everything worse. That would be one thing. And sadly, I would say, outside, the doctors and everything, try to find people outside that system. Maybe it shouldn't be like this, but it is what it is. And had I, like I said, had I followed my doctor's advice and believed him, I would probably be institutionalized now because I was. It's hard to explain how I was crazy, man. I didn't act right. I couldn't speak properly. I was losing like the quality of your speech. I talk like a crazy person. I was, and you cannot. I think you cannot possibly recover from that with only a psychiatrist or a psychologist or any clinicians, like that. You can't. I think you can't. I wish I could say that you can, but I think you can't.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I mean, this chronic treatment that they do. I mean, certainly as someone has some kind of acute mental health episode, they need a doctor's help. But this kind of chronic, like you're going to take drugs the rest of your life.
That's what
it seems to me that's. I don't know. Whenever anybody says anything like this, they get all this pushback. Oh, but you don't understand. Well, maybe I don't understand, but still, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, that's like a patient. I mean, that's my opinion as a patient, ex-patient, and you can't argue with results. And the results of that treatment were horrible, and the results of me taking care of myself, going for alternate help, and people who were going through challenges brought me better results. So you can't argue with that. And I saw the people this doctor specifically treated, and every year they were worse. They were crazier. I can't say that they were getting better. I can't. Only 10 years ago, I asked around, and the same people were in the same treatment, and here I am. It's like, it's a thing that you can't talk too much about, but that's the way it is.
That is amazing, right? You escaped by doing what you figured out on your own to do. That is amazing, and I mean, physical health leading to mental health, and also, of course, you change your mindset as well. You change the way you looked at things. I mean, I think people tend to think of mental health as something separate, but it's all of a piece, all together. The physical health, mental health, mindset, everything. Sunshine, state, good exercise, all that. Yeah, it's definitely all of a piece.
It's not just one thing that you can do and it will magically. No, everything. It's like this. It's everything is interconnected within you. Impossible to just take a pill and expect to change your entire life. It's impossible. But that's I understand doctors because that's what people ask them for. I don't want to do anything. Just fix me.
Right.
I understand doctors on that side.
Right. That's a big problem that we talk a lot about on Twitter is how much of this, doctors just want to give you a pill, but yes, most people just want to take a pill. So, definitely a problem. Matias, what goals do you set for yourself now? I mean, you're physically fit, you're mentally fit, you're doing coaching for a living, physical fitness coaching for a living, health and fitness coaching. What are your goals now? What do are you still improving? Speak about that a little bit.
Yeah. I didn't talk about this much because when I'm going through problems, I don't talk about them online. But I'm gonna tweet about it when it's over. But I went through last year and a half through new challenges, and so it's never over. When it comes to physical, I hadn't trained regularly a year and a half. Like I'm almost never training, like not even 4 times a month right now. But I found my way to I look like I train, but I'm not actually in great shape right now. I don't know if it makes sense, but so I went through that. I partied a bit too much last year, and I drank too much alcohol and stuff like that. I was, sleeping 5 hours and stressing over money and stuff like that. Basically, that's my challenge right now, to start training again. And learn new things. Like bodyweight training is endless. It's like I want to learn some soft acrobatics outside. I'm gonna make videos about that. And my biggest challenge right now is financial. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna focus on. But health-wise, I'm great. Yeah, just I donated blood today. I tweeted about it, so that makes you feel great too. That's awesome. Makes you feel awesome.
Right. Fantastic. So, you've got a really remarkable story, Matias, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about it. I mean, your frankness, your openness is remarkable, and I think that hopefully, some people, seeing this and hearing you talk, this can help them. I know that, many people find themselves in this, like the end of the road kind of thing, and they think nothing can make them better. So, hopefully, hearing you can give them some inspiration as to how they can get out of this. Matias, where can people find you online?
Mainly Twitter at hormetic.com, which is at HORMETIK instead of a C, or Matias Page, Hormetic, something like that. And Matias Page, I'm always, all my usernames in every platform are the same. So yeah, that's it. And by the way, what you just mentioned, 90% of the DMs I get, messages, are from people who are not so much out of shape, but are depressed with treatment, stuff like that. So it's taking a lot of time, because it's impossible to answer things like that to each person, hundreds. So I've been meaning to write something because they're asking me for it, but because I take it seriously, I don't want to, throw out something that I just, which is going to be free, of course, regarding depression and stuff like that. I'm going to put something that at least is what I did. It doesn't mean it's gonna work for everyone, but they're asking me that, so I can always refer them to that guide. But it's taking me much longer than I expected, because it's many years of trying many things. So it's hard to know what did actually make an impact and not,
Right. That would be remarkable. I know you've helped a lot of people. I think your story is amazing, Matias, and thanks so much for telling us about it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Danny. It's an honor to be here, and I admire you since I met you online, and you've been a great guy to me. So it's amazing to be here.
Thanks a lot, Matias, and thanks a lot for talking. And you take care now.
Thank you.
All right. Bye now.